Story time. I babysat a lot of kids in my neighborhood, and there was this one night that I was babysitting a 2-year-old. It was around 10 o'clock at night, so the kid was sleeping, and I was just sitting in the living room. In the living room, there was a big TV, a couch, and then behind me, it was a wall with a giant window. So it was really late at night, I had nothing to do, so I was Snapchatting my friends. If you Snapchat anybody, I'm sure you know that sometimes you Snapchat really fast. You don't even know or look at what you're sending. I was mass snapping all my friends, and then one of them replied 10 minutes later. And he said, "Who's that guy behind you?" And I turned around and no one was there, so I'm like, he's playing a joke on me. But then I get another Snapchat from this friend I had, and she lives all the way across the country. They don't know each other. And she said, "I think there's someone outside." So I was really freaked out because I was alone. There was a giant window behind me. Apparently there was someone outside. I wasn't gonna call the child's parents because I didn't want to freak them out, but I was scared. So then I went around the house, locked all of the doors. Sorry, it's a really long story, like for part 2. Part 2. So yeah, there was a guy outside the window. So yes, I did lock all the doors and everything. I made sure everything was secure. I closed the blinds. So for the rest of the night, nothing else really happened other than this really weird thump. It was like someone was knocking on a window. Allow me to demonstrate. I ignored it because I was in denial that this was happening. The rest of the night was normal. The parents came home. I drove really fast home. And then the next morning I wake up. And apparently, an old man with Alzheimer's had escaped from his little home. I did not know this because it was dark outside, and even if I did see him outside the window, I wouldn't have known this. But he was naked. Naked. So it wasn't like a mass murderer outside the window, but it was a naked man with Alzheimer's looking at me through a window. It's not every teenage girl's dream, but it's really weird just knowing that a naked old man was staring at me through a window. Storytime Tinder edition. Okay, the story blew up on Twitter like a while ago, but I'm just gonna retell it because it's very informational. So there was this guy and this girl, and they met through Tinder, and then they met up and they went on this date. And they were out at dinner, and then she starts not feeling so well. And then she says, "I really need to go home." And he says, "Yeah, I'll drive you home." And she says, "Okay." So then they get to her house, and then she starts feeling better. So then she says, "Do you want to come in for some coffee?" And then he says, "Yeah, sure." So they go inside, they have their coffee, and then she doesn't feel well again. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't feel well again. I think you really need to leave." And he's like, "Okay." And he leaves. And then she goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, she wakes up, and she hears this noise down in her kitchen. And so she locks her door, and she calls the cop. And the 911 operator is just on the other line saying, "Can you just stay on the line until the cops get there?" And then the cops get there, and they're like, "The door is locked. Like, we don't think anyone's inside." And she's like, "I promise you, someone's inside my house. I can hear them." She says, "You have my permission to break down the door." So she's still up in her room, and then she hears the cops break down the door, and then she hears some wrestling and some fighting. Part 2 coming now. Part 2 of the Tinder story. So then after the cops break down the door, they go upstairs and they knock on her door, and they're like, "It's okay, we've got the guy, everything's fine." And they say to her, "We don't really want you to stay here tonight. We don't think that you should see what he's done." And when I say he, it's the guy that she went on a date with. And she's like, "No, I need to see what he's done." So she goes downstairs and she sees her kitchen wrapped all in plastic, and there's a saw and a hammer and a knife. And earlier when he came into her house for coffee, he set his keys down right next to her keys. And so when he left, he picked up both sets of keys. And that is how he got back into her house. And they tested her, like her blood and everything, and she wasn't supposed to wake up because of how many drugs were in her system, because on the date, he drugged her. And then I guess he was just planning on chopping up her body in her own kitchen. I don't know. Stay safe.
I was just going to the bathroom, and I know I wasn't pooping because girls don't poop. I was pooping. Shh, don't tell the boys, okay? But anyways, I'm like almost finished up in the bathroom, and all of a sudden, I feel something touch my butt cheeks. Like, you know that fear that everybody has, like when you're going to the bathroom, that something's just gonna pop out of the toilet and be like, on your booty hole? Well, I was going to the bathroom, and a literal bee, not the good kind that we want to say, like the mean stinging kind, like came out of the toilet and started crawling all over my butt while I was mid-dump. It was something like this. This is me on the toilet. And the bee starts flying all over the place. And I knock over every single shampoo bottle in the shower. Sounds like an earthquake. My pants are around my ankles. This bee is just like, bzz, 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 let me get your butt cheeks. Bzz, bzz, bzz. I smack the bee. The bee is on the ground. And I take the toilet plunger and put it over the bee. And it is currently trapped underneath there right now. And I'm never going to move that toilet plunger ever again.
So one day, I was on FaceTime with a boy who I thought was extremely cute, okay? And I had to go use the bathroom. But I wasn't gonna tell him, hey, yo, I'm gonna go take a fat ass shit. Like, no, I wasn't gonna say that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna brush my teeth right now. Like, I'm gonna put you on mute or whatever, right? I swear to God, I remember pushing the mute button, bitch. This is where it gets so good, bro. Like, it's... I'm out here vibing, doing my thing, you know, like, you just imagine. I was on the toilet, I was exploding. And then I hear him on the phone saying, damn, girl, you got so much gas. I was like, what? Okay. So after I'm done with, like, everything, washing my hands and shit, I check my phone and the mute button isn't on, which means he literally heard everything. I hung up. I've never talked to him since, bro. Like,
you guys, this is why I always check myself before I leave any bathroom. Okay. You guys always ask what's my most embarrassing story, and I finally remembered what it was. The reason I think I forgot is because I repressed this so much. It is my mission in life to never allow this to happen again. Let's set the scene. So a few years ago I was at church. I don't know if it was like a regular Sunday or a conference, I don't know what. My church can have services up to like 4 hours long. So I just went to the bathroom for a little me time. Wasn't in there a lot long. Now I'm not a hoverer. I know most girls are, but I prefer to use the toilet cover. But my church doesn't have one of those. So instead I kind of made one. I used like 4 pieces of toilet paper, lined the toilet seat. I wouldn't be touching the actual seat. Okay, job well done. When my me time was over, flush the toilet, wash my hands, make sure my hair looks okay. All is well. Now I'm alone in the bathroom, halfway through the service. The bathrooms at my church are in the lobby. When I exited the bathroom to go back into the church, there are these doors I need to go through. There are also ushers there to open the door for you. There's usually an unnecessary amount, like 2 or 4. Thank goodness there was a girl there. Fall for part 2. This is part 2 of my most embarrassing story. Okay, so I was walking out trying to get back to my seat, and then I feel a tap on my shoulder. This is right when I got past the door. A woman who was standing near the door pointed out that there was a piece of toilet paper on my butt, just chilling there. I grabbed it and it was like a whole thing of it. In the moment, I didn't feel like true embarrassment. Like right now, I grabbed it and kind of like rolled it up. My face was like so emotionless. I was like, I just kind of just put the toilet paper in my pocket and just walked away. Now, every time I go to the bathroom, I check that I'm good. I be doing this. Ain't ever gonna catch that. You ain't gonna catch me like that again. But yeah, thank you to that lady.
I was 11 years old when my mom kicked me out of the house for the first time. It was a school day. The sun wasn't even out. So you know what I did? I took a shit in the front yard. And I smeared it on her house with a leaf. Fuck. And then I took my happy ass on the school bus with a fucking trash bag of my belongings and went to school. And I told all of my friends, naturally. I thought this was the best revenge. I thought this was a normal thing that happened between daughters and mothers. I got sent to the guidance counselor. And then a few years later, I found out that my stepdad had to power wash my feces.